Electrocast. I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video, March 27th.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit, and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Is Mercury in retrograde, or are we just having a bad day or week? Do certain star signs come with an attitude, or is it just their personality? Rachel Varitimos answers all the tough questions I have for her when it comes to astrology. Rachel is an evolutionary astrologer who guides people to reconnect with their truest selves using the power of astrology. She teaches astrology in a way that empowers you to optimize your life and fast-track your healing journey. For Rachel, astrology isn't about putting you in a box. It's about opening you up to your limitless potential and guiding you from your lowest expression to your highest. Astrology is a timeless science that maps out the interconnectedness of everything. And Rachel shows how aligning with it daily can awaken your psychic gifts and amplify your natural strengths. Welcome, Rachel, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Now, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, I'm an evolutionary astrologer. So evolutionary astrology means that I use the nodes in my readings a lot. And the nodes in astrology basically tell you about your past life, or if you don't believe in past lives, you can think of your early upbringing, your childhood. And then your north node is a new area of focus in this lifetime. It's almost like you've never done this area before, but it's also your North Star. And so I really like helping people evolve to use astrology to get out of their comfort zone, to step into the unknown, to gain clarity and insight into their life. And so that's what the North Node does, is it's this place that feels awkward and uncomfortable for you, but the more you set your sights on it, like your North Star, the more everything else in your life works out. The more you start to transcend your chart and get into the higher vibration of the chart. And so, yeah, that's That's what I do. I help people transcend their birth chart and get into the highest vibration of themselves.
So how did you get into all this stuff? What's your story and how did you stumble upon astrology?
I have such a long story, but I'll condense it. So I got into personal development when I was 9 years old. I went to a weight loss camp because I was obese. I had begged my parents to let me go. I didn't have any friends. I was extremely shy. I barely talked, and I would closet eat when I'd get home because I didn't, well, first of all, I didn't know that's why I was obese, because when you're a kid, you don't correlate with eating food with being obese. You just don't know those things. And so I thought there was just something seriously wrong with me, and I needed to work on myself so I could fit in with the rest of society. So my parents let me go to that weight loss camp, and I lost 23 pounds in 6 weeks. I became obsessed with nutrition and being thin after that, because I also made some friends at the camp, and it was like this first inkling. It was this connection made of, wow, if I lose weight, I'll have friends. And so I spent the next 16 to 20 something years, like 16 to 22 years, researching nutrition heavily. Like from 9 years old, I was staying up until 3 a.m. researching nutrition. I ended up getting my degree in college in nutrition. That's how long I stuck with it. And I was seeking freedom. I wanted food freedom. I wanted to just be able to be myself, like look like the normal kids, be a normal weight, and not live in so much control all the time. And I didn't find my answer in college. In fact, college made me really, it made me lose hope, because I remember I would look at all these different nutritional studies and they would contradict each other, and it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, how could all of these studies be right? And so I ended up getting another degree after I got my degree in nutrition, because I was like, well, maybe I just need to learn more. And after that, after 16 years of studying, I just came to this realization that I can't learn for one more second. This isn't getting me anywhere. I'm more anxious than ever. Everything's messed up. So I just surrendered, and I started eating when I was hungry, stopping when I was full, eating fruits and veggies, and not thinking about it. And within a few months, I ended up normalizing in my body weight. And for the first time in my life, I understood what intuition was, because I was always so much in my head, which is very much like my South Node, which we can get into more in a second. But after that, I realized, wow, I can change, and it comes through surrender. And so, but that took me a long time. That was like 20 years. And so then fast forward, a lot of other stuff happened. I get my first birth chart reading, and I had been attending a lot of women's retreats that year because I wanted to make more women's friends. And I ended up getting a birth chart reading, and she told me about my past life. She told me about my South Node. And one of the things that she said to me was, it sounded like in a past life I had hosted retreats. And because I had been attending so many retreats, I wanted to host one so badly. But I had no clients, no experience, no right to host a retreat. But I took what she said and I ran with it. And that's how I like to use astrology. I like to use it to hold your hand as you jump into the unknown. And I asked my mom if I could put a house on her credit card. I put the house on her credit card. She said yes. And within a month, I filled my first retreat with 14 people. After that, I became obsessed with astrology. I just wanted to know everything about it. I wanted to know, what else do I not know about myself that I can do? What else, like what other doors can I open? What can I heal? This was the fastest like quantum leap, people can call it, that I could ever had. And I had so much self-love from it. I went on to host 6 more retreats in 2 years. And so, yeah, I'm the kind of person, when I study something, I study it from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. Are you like that too?
Yeah, I dig deep.
Yeah. And so I learned astrology really quickly, very similar to learning a new language. When you immerse yourself in it and then you start talking about it to everyone, it's the only thing you see. I learned it very quickly, and I started changing so many other things in my life to the point where I felt like I was having giant growth, like internal growth that then matched my external world every 3 months. Like things were changing fast. And so I started using this astrology with my friends and my clients, and then things started changing for them really quickly. And what I was doing was focusing on the nodes. I was focusing on the nodes and other things going on in their chart. And so Yeah, that's how I came into doing astrology. I spent so long grueling trying to transform my life, studying everything. And turns out a lot of the answers were just in my birth chart. And your birth chart, I say, fast tracks your healing.
For people listening and they think of astrology and they think it's a bit woo-woo and it's, it's just, made up. What's your response to that?
I do understand where they're coming from when people talk about charlatans. Like, I have people say that to me all the time. And I think that's because you have people who predict astrology and say this is exactly how it's going to be, and they almost put you in a box. Even when you read horoscopes, it puts you in a box. So I'm not a big fan of the astrology apps. And I do think in some ways astrology can take your power away if you use it in a fixed way, this is how it's going to be. Or you use it as a reason for things not going well in your life. That can be a disempowering way to use astrology. And there's a disempowering way to use anything in life. And so to me, the most empowering way to use astrology is to just start learning about it and noticing it in your daily life. And what will end up happening is there's 12 zodiac signs, 12 archetypes. When you get familiar with each archetype and you start to look for it out in the world, and then you ask people to see their chart and you see if they have that archetype prominent in them. And then when it's confirmed to you, it just strengthens your intuition. It almost takes your left brain of knowing how things work. Like, we all have a friend where we meet someone else that reminds us of that friend. It's because we knew that friend. And so astrology is the same way, as it strengthens your intuition. The more you know about astrology and you notice it in the outside world, you can feel it, you become more psychic. There are times when I wake up in the middle of the night and I can feel exactly what transit's going on. And I've checked my phone and I've been spot on. At that moment, that transit just happened. And it's only because I started paying attention. So I actually believe astrology is a map of our human consciousness, and that it is limitless in its potential. It never puts you in a box. When I do readings with people, I never just tell them who they are. I tell them what the energy is, and then I ask them, what do you think about that? How does that fit into your life? And it allows them to use their intuition. It's more of a co-creative experience.
Now, you were mentioning horoscopes there as well, and people kind of get the two mixed up, don't they, like when we talk about astrology and horoscopes. And like you were saying, they tend to pigeonhole people and be like, well, I'm a Gemini, so maybe I'm not two-faced. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Do you get that a lot? Like, people are like, oh, I'm a Gemini. What can you tell me about me?
Yeah, I do get that a lot, and I'll tell people the whole spectrum of an archetype, because here's the thing, is that each archetype has a whole spectrum. It has a lower vibration, it has a higher vibration. Like Gemini, for example, the lower vibration is when everyone talks about this two-faced thing as if it's a bad thing and that they gossip. And that archetype, that energy, that is the low vibe of that energy, but you don't have to go anywhere near that. Like, you don't have to be anywhere near that kind of Gemini. And I also meet different kinds of Geminis because you have all 12 zodiac signs in your chart. And you have planets that rule each zodiac sign, each area of life. It's so much more complicated than people think that it is. And so I'll even meet some Geminis, for example, who are quiet learner Geminis, like Geminis who just like to learn and not talk to a lot of people. And then I meet Geminis who love to network and socialize with everyone and their mother, So that's the thing. It's just like when you meet someone out in the world, everyone's uniquely different, and we don't have a bunch of copy and pastes.
Yeah. Well, I actually am a Gemini, but I think what I do actually really resonates with who I am. Obviously, I talk a lot, I socialize a lot, but I'm also that quiet person that likes to be introverted sometimes. Like, I'm a bit like, it's a whole circle. Like, there's all different parts of the pie, and I'm every bit of them. I'm not just one or the other. And I think it's just funny how people sort of label and pigeonhole different star signs based on who they are and when they were born. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and then people almost give excuses for why they get to act a certain
Yes.
way. And it's just like, no, you are the creator of your reality,
Yeah.
like at the root of it all.
Yeah. It's not your star sign. It's you as a person.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how do you help people identify things in their life based on astrology? Like, how do you help them go back and find out who they really are, and how does it help them change their life?
Well, I think of even a client that I talked to today. So she is in this unknown place in her life. She had this business and now her business partner doesn't want to do the business anymore. And this is like, when something's been your life and then you don't have it anymore, you don't know what you're doing. And she always said that she's very go, go, go. And she has been getting this feeling that she needs to slow down and create more space and do more like feminine activities because she's very in her masculine a lot of the time, the last 10 years or so. And what we were able to do on that call is I was able to affirm exactly how she was feeling so that she could fully trust and surrender into the space she wanted to create for herself. And the reason I was able to do that is because we do have a transit coming up right now. It's already kind of in motion. And Mars is going retrograde for the next few months. So when Mars goes retrograde, it halts our willpower. It has us reflect on why we take action and where we take action from. It's not really a time to try to push and force. And if you do push and force, the brakes are gonna be put on you. And so I was able to affirm and validate her that the way she's feeling is exactly what's going on in the sky right now and give her that permission. Because think about it, when you're someone who's so used to being in your masculine, it can feel scary to let go of that control and do something completely opposite. And so, number one, it's permission. Number two, we were then able to see why she's overexhausted by looking at her chart. She's a Leo, so she's really passionate. And so she loves taking action, but she's also a Scorpio rising, which makes her want to be in control, and it can be a little bit of a codependent energy. And so we saw all these connections in her chart and how it related to how she stuffs down what she actually thinks and what she actually believes, because she has this other planet that was connected called Lilith, which is an asteroid goddess basically that represents where we repress and we have a lot of shame in our chart. And so we were able to connect all of these dots for her to show her exactly what she needed to do moving forward, which was number one, she needed to stop repressing her needs. She needed to start meeting her needs first and like only focusing on meeting her needs before she moved forward and met other people's needs and moved forward and, did a new business or something like that. And so that's an example of how I would use it in other people's lives.
Now, something you touched on before, and I find this fascinating because I've had several conversations around it, and it's past lives and how they influence our current life. I had a previous guest on who was able to tell me that in a former life I was actually a Hollywood movie director. Now, when I went to Hollywood 2 years ago, I felt like I was at home. And I said to her, "What's with that?" She said, "That's because you've been there before." And I was like, that makes sense. And now all the things I do in my life, it's almost the same thing. Do you see people relive their lives, like in what they're doing now?
Yeah, so with the South Node, now I'm curious what your South Node in astrology would be, if it's like Leo or Pisces or something.
How do you know that? How do you work that out?
Do you know your time of birth? Because I could pull up your birth chart.
I think it's like 4 a.m. or something like that.
Let me see. Where were you born?
Where?
Yeah.
I was born in Boonah, Australia.
Boonah. How do you spell that?
Boonah.
Boonah. Boonah. Okay, I think that it found that. Boonah. Yeah, Boonah. And then what's your birthday?
7 June 1975.
June. I forgot you guys do your dates backwards. 1975.
Yeah, 4 a.m. I was born. There you go.
4 a.m. Okay. So, oh, interesting. Your south node is in Gemini. So you
Ooh.
actually have the same south node as I do, but let me see where your Mercury is. Okay. It's also in Gemini.
Ooh.
Let me see your. Yeah, well, you come from a past life of being very creative and very in your hobbies, and also potentially perfectionistic about your hobbies and really wanting to do things right and master something. Like, you're the kind of person, when you get into hobbies, you're going to want to master it. You're not going to just be like, this is just the hobby. Like, if you're playing guitar, you're probably going to play guitar very, very well and practice a lot.
Yep.
So yeah, your south node in Gemini, you have a same south node as me. So we come from a past life of where we really like to learn. We're big learners, deep learners. For you, you might have liked to learn new skills because it's in the second house. And you also probably like to make, whenever I see a south node in the second house, it's someone who takes financial security really seriously, or at least did when they were younger. They thought about it a lot. They made it a big part of their life. And so your North Star in this lifetime is to explore different belief systems that help you transform, explore different ways of investing your money. And it's almost like do more shared resources as opposed to trying to make your money from an income. Your North Star was to invest your money and figure ways to grow your money and figure ways to combine your money with other people's money. And you're here to be more supported and not all on your own for making your money in this lifetime. And you're exploring different belief systems and different avenues to do that. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. No surprises there at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So your south node, when I say it tells you about your past lives and your early childhood, it's where you spent many lifetimes. So you spent many lifetimes learning. You spent many lifetimes communicating. People who have the south node in Gemini have the gift of gab, you know? And so you're really here to get in touch with your truth and regurgitate less from books and more from your intuition.
Yep. Yeah.
And surrendering.
So it makes total sense that I do what I do. And I also have a day job in communication. So, you know, makes total sense. Do you see people like change their careers or their career path based on the sort of, you know, information you give them?
Oh, that's actually one of the number one things people do, I feel like, when they get readings with me. That's what happened for me. And usually when people get a reading with me, they're coming because they feel stuck and there's something that they are leaning into. They just needed permission to fully lean into it. And that's how I like to use astrology. Like I said, it's your hand to hold as you walk into the unknown. Oftentimes we want to do things, but we don't give ourselves permission to, and then we wobble and we go back and forth. And then we don't do anything and we continue to stay stuck. So I've had people become retreat hosts after, do the same thing as me. I've had people who, there's one girl I'm working with right now who just paid all of this money to create all of this course. And then we did a reading and I told her about her chart and she was like, honestly, I don't know if this is completely in alignment. Now that I'm listening to my chart, I already felt like it wasn't in alignment. This is just confirming it. And so now she's halting that project for the next few months. So, yeah, my answer is yes.
Yeah, and intuition plays a big part. Like I know for me, I've really taken a lot of time to develop my intuition, and it is incredible once you have that skill. How do you help people get in touch with that? I know consciousness is a really big part of it because a lot of the time we're just not aware of, you know, that inner knowing. How do you help people find that?
By telling them, like literally when you tell people about their chart, it's just confirmation for these things they know about themselves, their intuition, but they don't trust it. There's so much information out in the world right now. And then we learn things from society. We learn things from our parents. And so our intuition is within all of us. And I think more people are connected to that voice than they realize. Like there was so many years that I said I wasn't connected to my intuition. I said I was the least intuitive person ever. I didn't know what intuition was. It's like what you said. And when you give someone a reading and it confirms everything that feels so deeply inside them, everything that they know, it helps clear away the clutter of everything they've learned from everyone else, everything they've learned from books. And then it helps them get in touch with their intuition. But another way that I've helped people, and this was actually so exciting, this happened a week ago and I was jumping for joy. So I have a membership where I teach people about the zodiac signs and how to apply it to their chart. I'm not teaching how to read charts or anything. I just want to break it down simply so people can use the astrology in their daily life. And I give daily energy reports. And in my daily energy reports, I tell them about the signs and the planets that are happening in the sky and then how to apply it to their life. So then when they go out in their day, they're open to that energy and then able to make meaning out of it and learn the lesson from it. And so through this membership, one girl who's in there, she's gotten really into tracking how the energy is showing up in her life, how the energy in my resource library shows up within her. And she went online and she looked up a bunch of celebrities and she wanted to know which ones were Scorpios. And because she's been studying that energy. So she went through and was like, this one, this one, this one, this one. And she said she got to like a 97% correct rate after a while. Like she said, yeah, at first it was a little shaky and then I was just on and on and on. So yeah, that's how you can help people is you just tell them what to be aware of and then their intuition strengthens.
I found as well that if you don't let thought get in the way of your intuition, sometimes we get in our head and it's not in our head. Like I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's on Instagram or somewhere, they have the intuition test and basically they're like, guess what the color is or guess what the number is. And like my strike rate is about 95%. I'm just like, it's just mind blowing.
Wow.
And so it's really going for that first thing that comes into your mind. It's not putting thought in the way. It's just, what does your gut tell you?
Totally. And then I believe there's different kinds of intuition. I actually just took a psychic development course because I was so fascinated by how much astrology opened up my psychic senses. So that's very claircognizant and just knowing. But then there's like clairsentience where you feel it. There's clairaudience where you hear it and then you can visualize it too. And so yes, I believe it's the first thing that comes to your head if you want to practice it on your own. And I've also found that when you stare at something long enough or you logically know something and then you feel something, it's the combination of the left and right brain. And so I actually think the more people practice their right brain, the more their psychic senses will come online. Because at least in America, I don't know if it's like this in Australia, but in America, we've overused our left brain. Yeah. Our schools are set up to only use our left brain, and we've been trained away from our right brain. And the magic is when both of them come together in equal parts. And that's actually why Libra, the zodiac sign Libra, a lot of them tend to be super intuitive. Libra is one of the most intuitive signs, and it's because it's the perfect balance between left brain and right brain. That's what Libra is about. It's about balance, but also a high vibe Libra, a high vibrational Libra, the one that's in the higher octaves of it. They have that balance and it makes them extremely intelligent because they can feel and they can know things. And the knowing can inform the feeling and the feeling can inform the knowing.
Yep, that makes sense. Now, if people are listening and they're like, okay, well, you've got my date of birth and time and location and all that kind of stuff. If they want to learn more about, what their astrology is, where can they go and what can they do?
Oh, there's so many different ways. So I'm a big fan of downloading the Time Passages app, and I like that app because it doesn't just give you these random horoscopes like on CoStar. I know a lot of people like to use CoStar, and I think CoStar can actually be a very damaging app. Some of their horoscopes are straight mean, I feel like. So Time Passages is really good because you can get a breakdown of every single planet and what sign it's in and what house it's in. Now, each So a planet in a sign is like the personality of that planet. Each planet in your birth chart is like a different part of you. So there's the part of you that takes action. There's the part of you that has luck, growth, and expansion. There's the part of you that feels and emotionally connects to things, and your subjective reality is put through your feelings filter. There's a part of you that's responsible or very critical of yourself, and so it blocks you. There's a part of you that gains pleasure through certain things. And so each of those parts equate to a planet. That's what the planets are doing. They're each a part of you. But each planet has a different personality. So we don't all have the same planets with the same zodiac sign. The zodiac sign is the personality.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look up what personality that part of you has, aka what personality that planet has in your chart, by seeing the breakdown of the signs and planets. Like, for example, you have Venus in Leo. You like people who are very self-expressed, I'm sure, people who are confident, people who are creative, people who like to have fun, and maybe dramatic people, people who are very generous and heart-opened, you know? That's the part of you, that's the relationship part of you, is that personality. But then the houses, there's 12 houses, and each house is associated with each zodiac sign, just like there's 12 zodiac signs. So the houses now represent an area of your life that part acts out in. So the Venus example for you is in the 4th house. You like friends that probably feel like home. You probably like your friends to come to your home. You're probably more introverted with your friends because you have Venus in the 4th house. Venus is your relationships, but it's in a very private part of your chart. It's in the part of your chart that represents your what's it called? Your personal life and your home and your ancestry and your family. And so maybe you like your friends to feel like family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it gives you that detail of information. So I would start going on YouTube University, or you can join my membership where I teach you how to do all of this. But on YouTube University, you can just look up, what does it mean to have Venus in Leo, for example? What does it mean to have Venus in my 4th house in that area of my life?
There's so much to it, isn't there? Like, it's so detailed. I had no idea. When you hear people say, you're like, what are you talking about? But it all makes sense, like, if you can understand, I guess, the levels and the hierarchy of it, I guess. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's more levels than hierarchy, I would say, because it's kind of like when you describe a movie and you have different characters and each character has a different personality, but then each character lives in a different part of the world type thing.
Yep.
But yeah, it gets even more complicated because then there's aspects, like there's angles made between the planets, which then tells how each part of you interacts with each other.
Yeah. Now, we hear people joke about, Mercury's in retrograde and things like that. The planets really do have an energy about them, and it does impact us. Like, I know for me, when it's a full moon, I can't sleep. And I don't know about other people. I know several of my friends who are quite conscious and aware, they have the same issue. What kind of impacts do the planets have on us energetically?
So I look at planets as energetic currents in the sky, just like there's a current in the ocean. And the moon impacts the tides of the ocean. It impacts the currents of the ocean. So when planets are turning retrograde, they slow down, and it's almost like they're putting their thumbprint on the earth. They're getting bigger. They're intensifying their energy. And that is why during a Mercury retrograde, the planet actually, it looks like it's going backwards, but it's just closer to planet Earth. And so it's like stay down. It's like putting extra force, which is why we can get these communication disruptions, because anything we have too much of, anything that's pressured onto us, it's almost like goes more internal. We have to be like, wait a second, this is like getting too confusing. What's going on? And it makes you go inwards. So right now, for example, Mars is stationing to go retrograde. Mars is our willpower, our action. Over the next couple months, as Mars slows down to go retrograde and then is retrograde, we're going to feel our willpower feel stifled. Like, it's going to feel like what you're taking action on, it's just harder to take that action. It's going to slow you down. Now, it also impacts different people differently because it depends on different planets and different signs will rule your chart. So you're a Taurus rising, for example. So you're ruled by Venus. You're going to be way more impacted by a Venus retrograde than a Mercury retrograde, because you also have a natal Mercury retrograde. Mercury was retrograde at the time of your birth. And so actually when Mercury goes retrograde for you, it's not as big of a deal as it is for other people. But when Venus goes retrograde, you're going to feel that, which it's going to go retrograde in March.
Because, I mean, most people are like, Mercury in retrograde is basically a shit show. So I'm saying, I was born in a shit show. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is just hilarious. Yeah, and it's these planets, like when we say something's going into retrograde, it sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? I mean, and it's going to be different for everyone, like you said. What kind of impacts have you had through the energy of the planets?
Oh my God. So I notice Venus retrogrades the most also because I'm also a Venus rule chart, except for I'm a Libra rising. I am a Taurus sun, so we kind of had that in common. But you're not a Taurus sun, you're a Taurus rising. But so when Venus went retrograde last, it was August of 2023, around that time, like August to September, or it was around that time. And I completely did a 180 in how I related to money. And it was not comfortable. It came with a lot of introspection, a lot of freaking out, a lot of things not going right. I was almost forced into looking at money differently. So what ended up happening was during a Venus retrograde, I ended up finding out about this like financial law. I'm really into financial sovereignty law now. And during that retrograde period, I was getting more into financial sovereignty law and understanding loopholes that I could use in my finances. I was understanding how to make trusts. And after that retrograde, I felt so secure with money when before that I was sick to my stomach my whole life with money. And it was only because I'm ruled by Venus and I was forced to look at that stuff. And then because I was pressured into it, it opened me up to a new way of doing money. So yeah, I've had massive shifts from transits like that. Anytime there's an astrological transit, I am setting my full intention on what lessons I need to learn, or I'm using it to my advantage. So one of the other things that was going on during that Venus retrograde was Jupiter was in Taurus, and I'm a Taurus sun. So when Jupiter moves through the same sign as your sun or your rising sign, you can have more luck and abundance and growth that year. So I was also aware of that energy, and I was like, well, I'm just going to go head first into this because I also have this supportive energy of growing and expanding and that I could have luck here. And so that's what I mean is I'll use every transit as a reason to grow and expand, as a reason to place my attention and intention into what to focus on and in a certain area of my life. Because without that, before that, I was just living life, going through life, not knowing where to place my intention, like another day would go by and I'm like, well, it's just another day. And now I'm following the cosmos. And that's how I believe I've been able to shift, we'll call it timelines, every 3 months because of it.
That's fascinating. So with Mars retrograde coming up, is that sort of something you would say to people like, think about your decision making, like don't make big decisions or those kind of things during a time like that?
Yeah, I would say if you have Mars retrograde natally, like if you were born with that, I wouldn't say not exactly to make those decisions, but I do believe it's more of a time of introspection, and that is where I'm guiding most of my clients to go, giving them space to slow down and allow the unknown to unfold around them, which is where I've found all of the magic is. And we're also in the midst of this Mars retrograde, the North Node, which is our collective obsession point. When the North Node was in Taurus, we all became obsessed with sunlight and no sunscreen and putting our feet in the ground. With the node in Aries, we've been all obsessed with ourself. In the middle of Mars retrograde, the node is going to move into Pisces, which means there's going to be a collective obsession with spirituality and surrendering and exploring the unknown and just surrendering to the unknown and releasing more of the practical day-to-day reality. And because I know that's happening in the middle of Mars retrograde and it's already an ask to slow down and surrender, that's a lot of the advice I'm giving to a lot of my clients. And then I'm also applying it how it specifically is impacting their chart, obviously. But yeah, I can say that there's so many things that like stories I could tell about this. Like, for example, I hosted retreats for 6 or 7 retreats in 2 years. And then on my last one, I just was so exhausted with hosting them. But everyone was telling me that I should keep hosting them because I had made a name for myself. And how could I stop now? You know, all those different things. But I just didn't feel the energy. And so I followed the astrology. I jumped into the unknown and I announced that I wasn't going to host any retreats anymore on an astrological transit. And then based on the astrology, I told myself, I'm going to do nothing but follow the fun until I figure out what I'm doing next. And that was terrifying because how am I going to, I'm not doing my business anymore. How am I going to make money? What's going to happen? But that's actually how I then got to the next stage of my business, which was full-time being an astrologer instead of doing retreats and like side astrology. Over those 4 months, it's like I jumped into the second half of me knowing astrology as a full language. Like I just deepened my connection with it. And when I came back to my business, I immediately made like $6,000 in the first couple of weeks. And so yeah, to me, I call astrology magic. Like astrology creates magic when you go into the unknown with it.
One thing that's been in the back of my head as you were explaining that is, I don't know, for me, my perspective is this year I've had a pretty shit year, right? So there's been all these things that have happened and I'm like, why is all this stuff happening? Can it actually be astrology that's influencing some of these things happening?
Yeah, it definitely could be. Let me look at what's going on in your chart too. Yeah, because you had eclipses on your Jupiter and your Mars of this past year, and these are really karmic times where you're being redirected and reshifted onto your more aligned path, and that usually comes with the universe taking things away from you or redirecting you in a way that you might be resisting. And so that can make it more challenging. So, and also, here's another thing. You have your Chiron, which is your deepest wound in Aries, and the nodes have been going through Aries, and you're also in a Chiron return. So all of those things make sense why you had a hard year because Chiron's our biggest wound and it was being itched in the sky for you to heal.
Wow. So has that stuff passed? Are we facing better days?
We are facing better days. That's the thing is I would have to go through each month and I could tell you different periods that would be harder than others. And then I can tell you periods when it's going to get better. That's what we would do in a full reading because it's not always the same consistently all the time. You know what I'm saying?
But right now, could you tell me what's happening in November? Is it going to get, yeah, like next month, is it going to be better?
For you or for collectively? For
me.
You? Let's see. Let's see if you have. It's hard to say because I would have to look through all of my transits and it would take longer than what I'm doing right now because I'd want to really like sit with this and make my predictions. What I will say is that collectively November is a doozy. So like so in the beginning of the month on November 2nd, we're going to have Pluto in Capricorn opposite Mars. These are two like bad boy planets. Like Pluto is like death and rebirth, like take things away, reveal shadowy truths. A lot of the Sean Combs, like P. Diddy stuff. I don't know if you've been hearing about it. That's been coming out directly in alignment with Pluto.
Right.
And he actually has Mars at 29 degrees Capricorn. which Pluto right now is at 29 degrees Capricorn. So how he's taken action and asserted himself and all the shady ways he's done that is being revealed now that Pluto went direct, because it's directly on his Mars. And so on the election, actually the American election is when we're having this aspect, and this could be like a explosive aspect. This could be like government versus the people, or this could be like truth coming out about like, I don't know, voter being rigged or something. I'm not very political, so I'm not going to get too much into the political stuff. I have no opinions, but it's weird that this really intense, harsh aspect is happening on the election day. And then after that, there's all these different shocks and surprises in the air.
Right.
So we're about to go into very different territory. A lot of the generational planets in 2025 are going into Aries. Aries is the start of the zodiacal wheel, which means that when all of these bigger, more collective planets that rule generations, are going into the sign of newness and starting fresh and paving a new trail, paving a new path, it speaks to mass change. And what's fascinating too is North Node in Pisces is having us dissolve all boundaries between what life once was. And so it's like two things going on at once. So what I'll say is, collectively, I don't know what we're up for. I don't know if it's good or bad. I believe it's ultimately good for humanity. I believe like good wins. And we're going through some new times.
Well, that's food for thought.
Yeah.
Let's just hang in there, shall we? Now, Rachel, I'm absolutely fascinated by this stuff, and I could talk about it all day. But if people want to find out more and they want to get in touch with you and maybe get a reading, where can they go?
Yeah, so I just got off of Instagram, but you can go to my podcast. It's the Astrology Magic Podcast. I talk about all of the transits coming up every single week so that you can stay in alignment and learn about your astrology. I also have a YouTube. It's Astrology Life Magic. So you can follow me on there, and I have links to get a birth chart reading or join my membership in there. And then I'm pretty sure on Podmatch, I gave you a free Activate Your Joy challenge. I can resend it to you. Maybe we can put it in the show notes. I have a free challenge. It's a 5-day joy activation where I teach you how to combine mindset work and self-concept work with your chart, with learning about your birth chart to reactivate joy and play and passion in your life.
Fascinating. Now, I got the last big question for you, Rachel. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
I would love more people following what gives them energy and shedding what doesn't give them energy. And really stepping into what's authentically right for them. We're going into the age of Aquarius right now, which is all about radical authenticity and rebelling against the norms and rebelling against other people to trust yourself. So I would love a lot more people to come into that trust with themselves. And I believe astrology is also ruled by Aquarius. So I would love for everyone to know about their astrology and for it to be the same thing how everyone speaks English all over the world. I would love for people to speak astrology because I think it would be so much more connected to ourselves, our intuition, and the world at large.
Imagine that. Imagine if everybody knew exactly all of the stuff and could be in touch with their intuition. Wow, that's world-changing stuff. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, here's to a better November, hopefully. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electrocast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electrocast. Hi everyone, I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electrocast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms. Electrocast.